how do you tutorialize World of Warcraft? Actually, how the bloody hell do you play the thing at endgame? No part of World of Warcraft teaches this. No dungeon experience in your level up flow will teach this. A heroic or even Mythic Zero dungeon will barely teach it. You'll only feel it later on. And I know that in that post, people are even talking about consumables. You know, is it rude to go to a Mythic Plus without having a hearty food or whatever?
Without a basic health potion, like,
yeah,
they're so cheap, they're so free, and they will save your life every 5 minutes.
Yeah, but why does flipping wee Bobby not buy one? Why doesn't he?
Yeah, why does he not use the Cave Dwellers potions he already has in his bag?
Who knows?
Interesting.
It'll feel like it's because he wants to spite you, but it's not.
No, it's because he's stupid. That's it. It's because he specifically is an idiot and a moron and should uninstall.
Wow.
Right?
Yeah, obviously.
Yeah.
Or is it that Blizzard could do a better job at the game?
Both.
Yeah.
Both's always the answer.
Yeah, realistically both. I think, I think this is hard. So,
yeah, like,
I remember when I was trying to learn different classes way back in the day, the first thing that I would do, saying like a healer, when I basically had not healed in years, go to the proving ground, complete, get to doing the gold proving ground, which is easy, but
astonishingly so.
You'll get you'll get the basics. You might not be mana efficient, whatever, but you'll get the basics. Now the reason why I did that is because I wanted to learn how to heal. So if somebody is healing to progress or doing DPS to progress, then the issue with having even if you have a proving ground that teaches, the dispels, or that gives you loads of interruptible abilities, but only one or two that you really need to interrupt, so it's actually testing your judgment. Well, they're not going to do that because they don't want to be great at WoW. They want great feedback from WoW. And that means a great DPS meter if they're a DPS player. They want to get that perfect, AoE scenario, use all their, do everything great and feel amazing because the game and their add-ons are giving them such good feedback saying, good job, good job, good job. But that's only a part of the difficulty that Blizzard are making. And the number one way that they could teach you that in the Proving Ground is incentivized in no way. So even if you had Proving Ground, that would absolutely solve all of our problems and people could do their own Rocky training montage. Maybe if they had the mythic Proving Ground that was actually hard as nails. If they, they took the punishment of the Warlock Greenfire and they threw that into a proving ground such that anybody who could do that proving ground would have to know the mechanics by the end. Doesn't fucking matter. No one's going to do it because it's not incentivized. It's not part of the progression. And the one time when they put a silver proving ground, silver in Warlords of Draenor. Now, silver, you can do with your not with your eyes closed, but I mean, it's really easy. It's like
it genuinely baffles me that people couldn't.
Yeah, it's like a tier 2 delve. It is so easy.
It was astonishing. If you haven't done it, go try it out. It's really funny how, if you're a new player or whatever, it's funny that this is the thing that caused the problem. And the drama, people unable to do it,
was over heroic dungeons at launch. Heroic dungeons,
yeah,
and they were not super hard.
No, not at all.
So
not at all.
Your problem here is real hard to solve.
Yeah, because this is why I wanted to set us let's build a WoW tutorial together, because I think it's very easy to go, well, just tutorialize it.
You need to build an incentivized journey.
You're just go, yeah. Because even the Hall of the Novice in FF, which is getting updates to teach individual boss mechanics, raid mechanics soon, so you'll know what a stack and a tank buster and a spread and all those things are. Even that's incentivized through gear rewards for a new player. And questing stuff, but even then it's not particularly there. Another thing is what's it called? Oh my god, what's it called? The Sky Seed Stone or Sea Sky Stone? Whatever's in FF, there's a training dummy that has a timer and an amount of health. And if you can beat that, there's one for every raid boss. If you can beat that, then you have the DPS. Without
WoW screws all this. And WoW screws this across almost all the game. Mm-hmm. So you think about the amount of, ostensibly the amount of content in WoW, but you only know it's content if you start browsing the in-game achievement list. Now, if you wanted to have a if you've got a bunch of rares in the world or something, you could put a little hunting board up in town, and that could have a UI and progression, and maybe a little boss fight in it. And suddenly, instead of people getting adventure of the whatever zone because you've ticked off a bunch of rares randomly, well, then people would actually see that presented to them as a piece of content, because there's a place in the world, there's a more proper bit of custom UI for it. So it needs to be framed. It needs to be framed, and I guess you see the trouble is it's all pre-made group finder. If this was done, if it was done that like you unlock your badge and then the group finder lets you do something, at least you could like frame a little, you could kind of like frame that as a quest or something for your character, and then you'd make it account wide, obviously.
Warbound wide.
Warbound. Sorry.
Warbound.
I know I keep on breaking the official style guide, and they've actually stopped sending us checks now. It's terrible.
Very good.
Every
the checks always had zeros on them anyway, so that wasn't really much use. It's just haunting us. Because here's your paid 0.
Every time I mispronounce a character, Blizzard actually just charge my subscription again.
That explains why you've been eating beans out of the can.
That's it.
Oh dear.
It's hard because to protect people from those who want the rewards the game dangles, but don't understand what those rewards are supposed to be from the skill and commitment level. Well, if you want to protect people from those other people, then you need a form of certification. You need to get your, degree.
Oh my God.
Now,
I'm a PhD in interrupting. Too late.
But the problem then is that is so like we put a wall up. Now the thing is, if you put up a wall, but you frame it as a journey, and there's a bunch of things that you can do in game, and Blizzard tries to actually make them be fun. Maybe they put in a few endless or challenge modes so that people could get a cool transmog, and maybe if you can get an initial starter set of gear from doing it, such that a player feels accomplished at the end, then it would feel like, oh, my reward is I get to sort of access this big new journey, and only after I've proved that I have mastered all the bits of Blizzard's toolkit. But putting in a hard block feels just too ham-fisted. It feels too ham-fisted to me, but how can you protect the experience of your audience otherwise? That's why it's goddamn hard.
I guess the answer then is basically, which player base do you want to hurt more as it currently stands? And the current solution is probably hurting the higher end players slightly more, but they're stickier anyway, generally. So that's probably like their reasoning for having the way it is. And I think they would very much love to.
This is like a mid-level suffering factory.
Yeah, basically it is either they're like game theorying suffering, as opposed to, because to solve this problem would be a fucking nightmare. Like the idea you have there of, building a basically like an in-game tutorial system that's heavily incentivizes gameplay wise.
Yeah. But it can't be called a tutorial.
It can't be called. It has to be.
It couldn't be called the Hall of the Novice. I think that's a shit name as well. Like it needs to feel aspirational.
It needs to be the actual game you're playing, basically. Like a normal game has a difficulty curve and learning to introduce mechanics bit by bit.
Yeah.
It needs to do that.
Like the way in some games you'll start off as a rookie, but then maybe after the first third of the game you prove yourself and you get knighted or something. Like
the whole Monster Hunter system of ranks.
This
is perfect for that. Like
it would need to feel like that. It can't be you're in the dunce chair until you go through dunce school. It needs to feel positive. It needs to feel aspirational. Like the psychology needs to be it needs to be reinforcing, not punishing. And I think Blizzard fuck up for reinforcement all the time, and like the key depletion's a brilliant example of that.
Yeah, so it's like if we were to build the tutorial, I think the answer then has to be you build content that holds people's hands while they learn basic things, and then you struggle because you can't do that, because you can't teach people to interrupt. Do you know why you can't teach people to interrupt, Michael?
Because they haven't looked at your key binding guide.
Because discipline and holy priests don't fucking have interrupts. Everyone else does. Not them.
That's okay.
Not them.
You
need to give them interrupts before you can teach them.
You either give them interrupts or you accept that your game is designed such that people have to work together, and you deal with the edge cases. And if you're going to complain about the edge cases, well, sorry, fuck you. You made those edge cases.
That's fair. That's fair. So like you would basically need to build.
And I'm not pro give everybody all the utility all the time, because then in order to challenge a group of flipping supermen, you're gonna have
the war within dungeons.
Oh no!
You're gonna have the war within actually at a high key level happen, where it is, because I know Jack talks about all the time. Or my Jack talking consistently about the like defensive bloat and how it's like, how do you heal anyone? You either heal them after they use a defensive, or they don't use a defensive and they explode, which means by default Blizzard are hitting players in hard content. Blizzard are hitting players for 140% of the health bar to do any damage. And then you go, well, I didn't press my defensive. Oh, you can't live.
I mean, I think about that as a paladin.
And someone goes, healer problem? Healer diff? I didn't get a fucking external because they didn't know I wasn't going to press bark skin, whatever else.
Yeah.
Oh dear. Funny, but like, yeah, it's like, I'm trying to think about what sort of elements you would need to actually teach people specifically. And it's kind of awkward because...
Well, imagine League of Legends if characters had each had 15 buttons. And most of those buttons did something. What you would have is, and obviously it's PvP, so it's just going to be more of a clusterfuck. One of the reasons why WoW PvP's a big struggle getting people in is because it's fucking ridiculous.
Oh, it's ludicrous.
It's absolutely goofy,
and it's not. It's like it's insane, but it's even insane because, like, I would say in terms of World of Warcraft players, I am in a very top percentile of knowing everything. Yeah. Because it's part of what I do for my job is I understand basically every spec to a certain degree.
And if you can get, say, like an 80 parse DPS in a heroic raid, yeah, that's you 80th percentile of heroic parses. You're probably beyond 95th of WoW players.
Yeah, for sure.
Like in general. So that's another thing. Maybe like I'm learning Ret. I get a 40 parse. On a heroic, this is the first time raiding was Ret, on a heroic raid. And there's a bit where you could be like, oh, boo-hoo, I'm terrible at the game. But then you also realize, well, oh, wait, hang on a second. There's a reason why if, I go into content that's not a heroic raid with my guild, I'll always be in the top. Yeah. Even though there's people who have grinded better gear. It's because, you're 40 percentile heroic raid, that means you're better than almost, fucking massive swath of players.
Yeah, it's kind of Dunning-Kruger in that sense. Yeah. Whereas, like, it's the same thing, because I was actually watching two people I watch a lot, Eugene Teo and Mike Israel on fitness and strength stuff.
I was just thinking, like, really?
So, like,
Renaissance keys.
Yes. So they, they had a conversation, this is a long time ago, but I just saw the video recently, talking about, like, how kind of, for bodybuilders, like, it's kind of hard to remember when you're in the gym that, you're substantially bigger and stronger than most people alive. You're in the top, like, single digit percentile of humans.
Yeah.
But then you look small compared to someone who's just somehow bigger than you, whatever else.
Well, if
it's like you're still like objectively you're fucking insanely huge. It's just subjectively that moment you're not, and I think that happens a lot of people. And it's just like, how could you possibly feel incompetent getting 70 parses in a heroic raid? And that's me. I parse 70 and go, how the fuck am I this bad at this game? I've been playing this for years. What's going on? And you're like, no.
Yeah.
No.
And when you then the thing is when you look at people on YouTube, we've all, me and Matt have both played WoW for like half of our adult lives, maybe more. Or at least technically speaking.
Yeah. Had an account for at least like.
Yeah. That's ridiculous. That's really silly. Now, I mean, there was somebody in our comments who's eye level 600, can't do Zekvir. Even so, like, I can't do Zekvir even in a group. Which is then, assuming Blizzard have got the balance right, that shouldn't matter. I'd actually say Zekvir is easier because is easier solo because that way you control all the variables, so you can just do them right. And they're really clear on the first difficulty level. And Like, yeah, to me, I went and killed Zekfir first time. It was absolute piss. But number one, there's our guide. I knew what the mechanics were. Number two, I've played WoW for a long time, so it's easy. So then there's a bit of a problem where WoW streamers, I mean, back in the day, they were all absolutely muscled up PvPers. Now there's a lot of raid and M+. And that means, you only see the best. You look at YouTube, and a lot of the time you'll only see the best. So it kind of creates this expectation of normal that's, I guess, yeah, it makes a lot of sense thinking about like the fitness side of things, where people, they may feel that, the only thing I need a 4-day a week, this and that. Whereas I'm pretty sure to beat most of the population,
you need to go for a walk.
Yeah. Yeah. If you do like 30-minute body weight or lightweight sessions a week and then walk, you'll be beating most humans.
Yep.
But then people, you see what gets talked about, and nobody talks about like that because it's not flipping sexy. Nobody's like, hey, look at me. I have an above average body. It takes barely any time. And I do a whole bunch of other things. They're not going to have a fitness channel.
Yeah, no, you're going to be watching bodybuilders and lifelong trainers, yeah.
Yeah, and then it's same with WoW.
Yeah.
Where we're ridiculous nerd people.
Kind of funny, because like, to get back to the talk of the tutorial, like, how do you solve that problem? And the answer is really, re-architect your entire game from the ground up. Easy solve.
So what you need is aspiration. You need narrative. Back in, and maybe some, just fuck it, just do it like this. Have a alliance and horde, theme it to alliance and horde, because those factions are
twice the work, Michael. God.
Oh my God. Imagine a developer having to do work in their paid product. Insane. So, I know it's very toxic and entitled of me. So you do that, you theme it to Alliance and Horde, because then it fits a self-selected player fantasy. So you couldn't just do it for the Earthen, because no one wants to be, you're the Justicar of the Earthen of Khazalgar. People you fucking met yesterday. Bullshit. No, it's got to be Evergreen, Horde, or Alliance, especially because that's what a player literally... The best way to do it would for it to be your player's race, but that's definitely too much work. But the point is, you need a self-select. It needs to be aspirational. Therefore, it needs to be something you'll inherently give a shit about. So if you chose a Horde character, then you probably care about Horde, so make it Horde. Then you make it a journey. Make it a journey full of challenges, full of rewards. By the end, I'm not saying you get knighted. You're Sir fucking Sir Slim Shady, the rogue. There you go. No. But something that you sort of get inducted into the big dick pumpers of the alliance.
The old BDP, yep.
Yep. And a great example of this is probably the old PvP titles, where you could be commander or high over or whatever. Well, you harness some of that so that by the time somebody is doing a Mythic Plus dungeon, they've got their badge, but they don't feel like that's a punishment. They feel like that is part of their progression. They've got good rewards from it, and they've maybe got rewards that are well designed to set them up. So maybe you give them a trinket that has a little bit of a survivability usage or something like that to kind of ease them in. But yeah, you frame it as a player journey, not as a sort of big requirement. You make it evergreen, so you only need to do it once.
Class halls, baby.
Yeah, you only need to do it once.
Class hall tournament arc, but easy, sorted.
You can go back to it if you want to refresh your skills. Maybe you have some sort of, it's not a requirement, but maybe there's a class-based reward as well. So if you're starting a new class, you can go and do it and get a cool reward that makes sense for your class. So it's all about harnessing this in terms of player psychology.
I mean,
if this is a tutorial, it'll never work. The problem isn't that WoW doesn't have a tutorial, because in many cases you don't need a tutorial. Loads of amazing games don't have a tutorial because they're very smart about what end they throw you in.
Yeah, tutorials are generally bad ideas and they suck. No one likes a tutorial, unless it's a very specific kind of game, but most people would rather learn by doing in the vast majority. Like, I get there's certain archetypes of players who are very kind of, I'd say anxiety prone, and they'd rather be prepared for something before they meet it. Where I think tutorials kind of work, but you can always frame something as not a tutorial and then make a tutorial, and just have people nonetheless.
Yeah.
And even then, I think like even if you were to do
The first boss of Dark Souls is a tutorial.
yeah.
I mean, in fucking Sekiro, most of the initial bunch of bosses are tutorials.
Yeah,
they're basically checking, can you do this? Can you do that? Can you use this? You don't know it's a tutorial because it's a challenge.
Yeah, the Capra Demon was teaching you to play with the terrain or get fucking eaten by dogs. Starts in my head 'cause I saw someone post a picture today on Twitter, been like, it was somewhere in France, and it was literally the Capra Demon room. Like, it was literally that. It was and you could tell, like, the Souls team, when they were looking for stuff in, like, around French castles, they found that and used it as a boss room. And this person didn't know what it was. They're like, there's like a 98% chance there's a magic shop at the end of this alleyway. And everyone's like, no, there fucking isn't. There's a Capra Demon. But, yeah, I think there's a huge amount of, like...
Yeah, Space Marine 2 didn't send me to boot camp because my character's a Space Marine. Yeah. They just introduce me to the mechanics via the story of the first mission. So they flow out naturally and I learn without feeling like I'm learning because I'm immediately rooted in the fantasy I signed up for.
The struggle there is that you do need, like, World of Warcraft's kind of it's such a UI game.
That's the problem.
That you have to tutorialize at least to some capacity, because you can't show someone a cast being thrown at them and expect they know to hit, let's use Paladin, for example, hit rebuke. Or you can't have someone, especially with talents are involved, you can't, without in some capacity having a tutorial setup, or at least a sort of railroading setup or hand-holding setup, you can't expect, say, a paladin to freedom or to cleanse toxins or sack or bop or something. So that's the kind of stuff you need to teach, and that's a little bit more difficult.
Do you know who almost came close to doing that?
Who?
Bran.
Almost.
Nerubians are in the webs!
Oh, yeah.
I mean, there's one thing for sure.
Mm.
We know that Nerubians are in the webs. Or even times where Bran will say, look out. Well, maybe if Bran said look out and then suddenly your character's dead, you're gonna...
No, you're not, because you're too busy looking at all the shit that's happening on your screen to hear Bran say look out, because World of Warcraft players don't pay attention to anything.
And they have sound turned off.
Also, most of them have sound turned off, music turned off, and listen to the Race the World First playlist that Echo put up, which is usually quite good.